Hawkwind, Warrior on the Edge of Time. It seems to me that in the world of YouTube listing and ranking videos, Hawkwind are often accepted by those who decide such things as being prog. Although I have heard one YouTube commentator say that they sound like an ordinary rock band playing behind a boiling kettle, which I think might be my favourite description of Hawkwind ever. However, it is my belief that location is often a better way to categorise artistic movements, like the Bloomsbury set, or the Liverpool Poets, or even Merseybeat. Hawkwind were part of a West London counterculture that sprang up in the late 60s. This album sees the dying embers of psychedelia being reignited by the spark that would become the firestorm that was punk. And it was only ever going to happen in West London, specifically Ladbroke Grove, Notting Hill, Portobello Road, and down the Uxbridge Road to Shepherd's Bush. That area is one of the great cauldrons that fermented rock music and dissent. Hawkwind played benefit gigs for right-on causes with bands like Edgar Broughton and the Pink Fairies. They were solid no-frills rockers that were too old to be part of the new that put the new in new wave. You can trace the music from that area, from the mod era Who, through psychedelia, Hawkwind, punk and the post-punk hippies like Here and Now, and the New Age Travellers. This album has long passages of steady drums with the occasional snare roll, all topped by swirling keyboards, and it could be seen as a blueprint for rave culture. Warrior on the Edge of Time was the last Hawkwind album to feature Lemmy, and the CD version includes the Lemmy song Motorhead, which was a Hawkwind B-side, but it was also recorded by Motorhead and became their first single. It was back in the heyday of punk, and I bought the 12-inch single of Motorhead. At the time it claimed to be the loudest record ever made, and it could well have been. The Hawkwind A-side, Kings of Speed, which is a bonus track, and the opening track, Assault and Battery, are both very proto-punk with the distorted Hawkwind distorted guitar power chords and with heavily affected vocals low in the mix. Assault and Battery starts with quite a proggy bass line and a mellotron that reminds me a bit of 10,000 Light Years from Home by the Rolling Stones. It has that generic Hawkwind sung melody, which is a bit like the vocal passages on Pink Floyd's Echoes. The version of Warrior on the Edge of Time I have has a Steven Wilson remix, which makes everything a bit clearer, though possibly being a bit clearer wasn't the original intention. On this album they have a proper keyboard player, not just the non-musicians making space noises with tone generators. There are still a lot of the spacey noises, but everything is softened down a bit with stringy pads, and so the distorted guitar power chord riffs that were a highlight of songs like Masters of the Universe are no longer the real driving force. My criticism of earlier Hawkwind albums is that usually the Dave Brock guitar solo and the Nick Turner flute and sax solos tend to play the very basic pentatonic patterns disguised by layers of effects. On this album there is not so much electric lead guitar, and the sax and flute playing is much more interesting. There is a lot of echoey recitation of sci-fi novelist Michael Moorcock's space poetry. It is like dystopian AI commands and demands. On other albums they had been noisier, messier and more adventurous. Warrior on the Edge of Time is more cohesive. It takes you from beginning to end in a satisfying manner. I hate to say it, but it is a bit of a journey. Or should I say, a trip. Hawkwind, Warrior on the Edge of Time.